Sami Jemfi is the National Communications Officer of the NDC. He's joined us on the line. Sami, you're welcome to Eyewitness News.
Thanks for having me, Sandra.
Tell us what you picked from the report, which is bothering you, for which reason you invited media houses to come listen to your story.
Well, there is nothing in the Professor Frimpong-Boateng report which surprises us as a political party, because as you are aware, the NDC has always maintained that President Akufo-Addo's proclaimed fight against galamsey is the biggest scam ever to be perpetrated on Ghanaians. And today we stand vindicated because this Professor Frimpong-Boateng report, which has now become a public matter, has confirmed our long-held position that there has never been any genuine commitment or any attempt on the part of this Akufo-Addo Bawumia MPP government to fight galamsey. But if you look at the extent of the damage that government officials, functionaries of the ruling MPP have done to our forest reserves, our water bodies, and our environment in general, and if you look at the millions, if not billions, of Ghana cedis that have been sunk in this fraudulent fight against galamsey, you cannot but agree with us that these matters should not just be discussed in the media and swept under the carpet in a couple of days, but the state must act on these matters. And that is why we are calling on the Office of Special Prosecutor to commence criminal investigations and action on this report. We are also calling on the representatives of the people, our parliamentarians, to launch a publicly televised bipartisan probe into this matter. We need to know the dark forces at the Jubilee House who are busy promoting galamsey and engaging in galamsey with their foreign Chinese collaborators. Ghanaians deserve to know why, at the time the ban on small-scale mining was still in force, the Akufo-Addo government, through the Forestry Commission and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, was busy giving forest entry permits to illegal miners, including Chinese, to destroy our forest reserves. Ghanaians deserve to know why the Special Assistant to the Chief of Staff, Frank Asidu-Bekwin, aka Protozwa, Presidential Staffer Charles Tegu, and the likes of Lord Comey, Director of Operations at the Presidency, are still working at the Presidency when this Frimpong report has been on the desk of the President since 2021. Why are they still working there despite the overwhelming evidence of their complicity in the illegal galamsey miners? Why has nobody been held responsible for the illegal mining that, according to Frimpong-Boateng, took place at the backyard garden of the president's own residence in his hometown, Citi? How come that Professor Joseph Kwam, people like Gabi Asarioch-Edakon, who have sought to protect and shield companies that have been found to be destroying our environment through illegal mining, how come nobody has held these people to account? So it is very, very sad that the president has betrayed the trust of the people this way. We are not surprised because we knew from day one that he was not serious about this fight. But we need to salvage what is left of our environment, what is left of our water body. Today, look at the River Pra, look at the River Nkobra, look at our forest reserves. If we continue on this path for the next 3 years, we will all become endangered species in this country because water is life. And if we allow a few selfish, greedy politicians to destroy our water bodies this way, we are indirectly killing ourselves. And that is why we have gotten to a point when we are saying enough is enough. This is the only country we have. Let us begin to see state institutions holding the president and his galamsey government to account. Let us begin to see Parliament, which has oversight over the executive, acting with alacrity on this matter, investigating the matters with transparency so that everybody can see and appreciate what has gone on. because after all, it is taxpayers' money, worth billions of Ghana cedis, which have been wasted on this fraudulent fight.
Okay, so I mean, you've said that there is nothing surprising about what you've seen in Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report, except that maybe it is in print from someone who was involved in the fight himself. But who are you specifically targeting? Because to make a criminal complaint, there should be a suspect that you would mention. Do you have a list of suspects that you are going to give to these investigative bodies to investigate and possibly prosecute if there's need for that? And again, are there specific charges that you think that can be brought against them for breaching A or B or C?
That's very simple, because the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act we have now makes illegal mining of any form a criminal offense. And in fact, in recent times, we have even amended the punishment regime in the law to make it more deterrent. And so there is no doubt about the fact that persons who either engage in or promote illegal mining are guilty of crimes and therefore liable to criminal prosecution and conviction if the courts so find. And so we will be petitioning the Office of the Special Prosecutor in the coming days. And with regards to your question about suspects, we are relying solely on the detailed reports of Professor Frimpong-Boateng, which is backed with pictures and videos and so on. And of course, other media reports. You know that you all in the media, the fourth estate of the realm, have done extensive work on this fight. I can readily recollect what a journalist like Erastus Asari-Donko, Kevin Taylor, and even reporters that work with your highly esteemed networks, Citi TV and Citi FM, have done on this fight. We're going to put together all these audiovisual evidence in addition with a report for the action of the Special Prosecutor. And some of the names that readily comes to mind are Lord Comey, Director of Operations at the Presidency, Presidential Staffer Charles Nii Tego, Special Aide to the Chief of Staff, Frank Asiedu-Bequin, the chief corporate among them, Eko Horace Ewusi, that is a former MPP vice chairman for the Central Region, who was reported to the police by Professor Frimpong-Boateng as the one responsible for the over 500 missing excavators. The journalist called Seth Mante, who, according to Frimpong-Boateng, laundered the proceeds of the criminal sale of those missing excavators, is also somebody on our list. Honorable Joseph Albert Kwam has to answer for the case against him by Frimpong-Boateng, that under the guise of community mining, he actually acquired concessions and illegally sold them to individuals at a cost of 200,000 Ghana cedis. That is 2 billion old Ghana cedis. And of course, the owner of the company known as Heritage Imperial Limited, Mr. Donald Nsua, and other people engaged in that company who, under the guise of prospecting, according to Frimpong-Boateng, have actually gone beyond the remit of what they are permitted to do by the law and have engaged in various forms of illegal mining, leading to the destruction of the Kobro, Biaso, and Apaprama forest reserves. We believe that all these people have questions to answer. Let us begin to see the Special Prosecutor working for once. Let us begin to see our members of parliament exposing some of these criminal activities openly for everybody to see. Because you see, opacity breeds corruption. The only way to fight these criminals who are destroying our water bodies, our forest reserves and all that, is to shed light on their criminal activities, is to name and shame. That is the first step. But beyond that, you ensure that they are taken through the full rigors of the law to serve as a deterrence to others. If we want to wait till 2025, when a new NDC government will be sworn in before we do some of these things, Sandra, I tell you that it will be too late. Because as I speak to you, the Ghana Water Company Limited is even on the verge of collapse because they can no longer bear the high cost of buying chemicals to treat these cyanide and galamsey polluted river bodies across the country for us to drink. And so very soon we may be importing water. And so this is a life and death matter. It calls for urgent action on the part of all of us as citizens of this country.
You are a lawyer. The burden of proof will be on the prosecutors who will be bringing these persons before court. The Jubilee House, which is the host of this document that we are discussing, has described the content of Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report as not being backed with evidence and a repetition of hearsay and so on. Beyond what has been described as hearsay and information that has no evidence to back it, what concrete information do you have to support the claim? Because it almost as if he is just reporting one issue from his one side. He hasn't really given evidence, has he?
What do you expect the people at the presidency to say when they themselves are neck deep in this illegal mining menace? They themselves are neck deep in it, so you don't expect them to say anything. How can any reasonable mind describe the revelations contained in the Professor Frimpong-Boateng report as mere allegations? The man was the Minister for Environment and Science. He was a chairman of government's interministerial committee against illegal mining. He is spoken to matters supporting same with letters, memos, pictures, and videos. Apart from him, we have seen other reports by the media, video evidence showing the illegal mining activities of some of these people. I have seen Protozua, that special assistant, on video crying and complaining about why the galamsey site of his boss was invaded by the task force working under the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. Is it not an incontrovertible fact that over 500 excavators that were seized from illegal miners, including gold and so on, have all vanished into thin air? So these are issues that have happened. This is not the creation of Frimpong-Boateng. These are matters that are already on public record. And you see, standard.
So what Professor Frimpong-Boateng says for you is concrete enough to be brought before a competent court.
It is for every reasonable mind. Has Donald and Shears company been engaged in mining in the Apaprama, Kobro, and Diaso forest reserves? The answer is yes. Do we have documentations, correspondences from the appropriate institutions to this company on that matter? Emphatically, yes. We know of a letter from Tony Obin under the actual NDC government ordering the company to stop their illegal mining activities under the guise of prospecting as far back as 2016. We know of another similar letter like that in 2017 under Peter Amewu's leadership. There is no doubt about the fact that officers of the Minerals Commission went to these sites and saw the company engaging in mining rather than the prospecting they were allowed to do. So these are not matters that should be difficult for any prosecutor worth a salt, any patriot, any reasonable man, any man with a conscience to probe and actually act on.
Okay. If we are going to use Professor Frimpong-Boateng's report as the bedrock of our prosecution, then we should take it in whole, shouldn't we? I'm looking at page 13 of the report, and I'm going to read two paragraphs with your indulgence. It said, it is well known in the small-scale mining circles that NDC members and sympathizers were well established in small-scale mining, especially in the Western region. They acquired several concessions in mineral-rich areas during the long periods of NDC reign. They had the money and other resources to not only sponsor NDC candidates, but also support independent candidates in the supposedly strongholds of the NPP. This is what happened in Ivalue-Ejura and Takwa constituencies. In the Wassa East district, a former NDC deputy minister, who is also MP for the Wassa East constituency, has been actively mining in the Subri forest for years. Mr. Sami Gyamfi, would you add the list or the names of these persons who Professor Frimpong-Boateng has referred to in your complaint to the Office of Special Prosecutor?
Well, I had one name, and my answer to you is simple. You see, when water bodies are destroyed and our lives come under threat, there is no difference between the NDC or the MPP, because we are all human beings who depend on water for our very survival. This is a national emergency. This is a national crisis. We must not bring partisanship into this matter. If there is any evidence that any NDC person is engaged in illegal mining in a water body or a forest reserve, the position of the National Democratic Congress, listen to me very clearly, is that they should be dealt with in accordance with law in the same manner that the president, his appointees, officials and functionaries of the ruling MPP should be dealt with. There should be no cover-up. There should be no discrimination. Enough of this cruelty of destroying water bodies and forest reserves in search of money at the expense of human life. Nothing can justify that. And so if you want my answer to that, my answer is that the special prosecutor should investigate the Frimpong-Boateng report as a whole. And anybody who is found culpable, be it an NDC member or an MPP member, must be dealt with accordingly.
So in your list to the OSP which you are compiling, you would add Honorable, I believe that should be Isaac Mensah, former Deputy Rules Minister and MP for Wasa.
There's only one name we've heard.
Yes.
And of course, we will put that before the special prosecutor for the special prosecutor to look into it. So if it is true that he is engaged in illegal mining in the Subri Forest Reserves, he has to be invited. It has to be confirmed whether he is the one behind it. If it is true that he is the one engaged in it, he has to show that he has appropriate licenses to engage in mining, if that is what he's doing.
Okay.
And apart from having the appropriate licenses, he has to prove that he has not gone beyond the conditions of those licenses in terms of mining in water bodies or dumping mining residue into water bodies and so on and so forth. So every finding or revelation in that report must be given all the seriousness it deserves, because this is not a report coming from Sami Jenfi or Maru Sanda or any small person. This is coming from a German trained cardiothoracic surgeon who was the chairman of the Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining and who has presented the report to government on the work of that Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining.
Very well.
And so the report is coming from the right, if you like, authority, and it must be given all the seriousness.
Thank you so much for your time. That's
thanks for having me, Sanda.
Sami Jenfi, National Communications Officer of the National Democratic Congress.